Have you ever seen those memes or like the Insta reels where you see someone sleeping and they sleep through their alarm, fire alarms, thunderstorms, but when they hear their cat start heaving, they immediately wake up? That was us.
I don't get those, reels. I don't get that on my algorithm because 'cause I'm not a cat
Ugh.
owner, but that's literally so funny that there's, like, a whole cat talk out there that I'm just not on. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Good Vibes FC. I'm Sam Ewis coming to you from the Women's Game World Headquarters in Vermont.
And I'm Becky Sauerbrunn coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Good Vibes FC is presented by our really great friends over at Olipop. You can use code TWG20 for 20% off at drinkolipop.com. Today on the podcast, we're recapping England's huge win in the Euros final and reflecting on the tournament as a whole. We'll also get into the WAFCON final, congrats to Nigeria, and the Copa América, which is ongoing this week. And then we have a fan question from Lauren about what the US women's national team should work on for 2027 after watching these teams play in the Euros. I also want to let everybody know that next week I will be in New York for the Women's Game Live. Our good friends at Ally are bringing TWG all the way to the Big Apple to celebrate all things rivalries ahead of the NWSL Rivals weekend. It's going to be such a fun evening. Some of my friends are coming. So if you haven't gotten your tickets already, what are you waiting for? We'll put a link in the show notes. I'm really excited to see you all there. Okay, Becky, we have so much to talk about today, but first, how are you?
I'm doing okay. My cats have been wild the last 2 nights, and it's hot in Portland, and so they're just shedding a lot, and Zola and I are trying our
Oh,
best to, like, brush them, collect all the fur, but they're starting to get hairballs, but for whatever reason, they only decide to hack up the hairballs at, like, 2:30 in the morning in our
right,
bedroom,
right.
and I've got 2 cats, and one, Olive, she sleeps with us in the bed, and so, like, 2 nights ago, it's like 2:30 in the morning. Have you ever seen those memes or, like, the Insta reels where you see someone sleeping and they sleep through their alarm, fire alarms, thunderstorms, but when they hear their cat start heaving, they immediately wake up? That was us.
I don't get those, reels. I don't get that on my algorithm because 'cause I'm not a cat owner,
Ugh.
but that's literally so funny that there's, like, a whole cat talk out there that I'm just not on.
Yeah, you're just not on it, but it tracks perfectly because, like, we ping awake, we have to, like, usher her off the bed because, of course, she's, like, about to yak on the
Don't
bed.
puke on my bed.
Don't puke on the bed. So she's, like, going at it, like, 3 or 4 times on the floor. I am like, "I'll get up." I'm already getting up to go to the bathroom anyway because pregnancy. So I go, I get paper towels, I clean everything up, and we're like, "Okay, it was just a one-off. Hopefully everything's fine." She hops back onto the bed and is now just purring in our faces because she just yacked and now she's
And now
hungry.
she's happy. Oh, she's
Well, she's
hungry.
happy and she's hungry. So Zola's like, I'll get up and go downstairs and kind of like she's an affection eater, so she kind of needs someone around her when she eats. And so
Oh.
he went down, she got a snack. Okay, we get back to sleep. And then last night, the same thing happens. At 2:30, she starts yakking. We usher her off the bed. But the thing is, Missy, my other cat who does not sleep with us usually, decides to come up around 3:30 after we've gone back to sleep. And she jumps on the bed and she like announces herself with like a little chirp. That's just what she does. She's like, "I'm here." And then immediately proceeds to start yakking. And so I have to usher her off my side of the bed and she starts puking. So I just had a rough night. A lot of hairballs going on.
That is a real rough night, Reba.
I know.
I'm so sorry.
I mean, it's like prep work for a baby, I think.
I
I
well,
think
I
they're
was
like
literally just gonna say,
they're just getting me ready.
they're getting you ready. Do you think they're, like, sensing that it's coming?
I have no idea.
Do they ever, like, cuddle up with your stomach?
They do, but they also just cuddle up, so I don't know if they know the difference.
Speaking of babies and pets, Christy and Jagger are here visiting.
How is that?
It's so great, but I have been wrangling my 2 dogs as Jagger is, doing all of his baby activities, tummy time, etcetera. I got it now. I, like, have this puppy who's, like, Chester is like a big dog in, like, an infant toddler body. So he just has, like, no idea. So, like, the dog behavior this week, I wonder if, like, pet astrologists could tell us, is our pets like acting out right now? Is that like, is Mercury in retrograde for dogs and cats? Because like my dog behaviors have been so kooky this week.
Oh, so they, like, noticeably have both of your dogs have changed behaviors.
Yes, yeah, yep, they're acting out.
They're acting out.
They're acting out. I think that Finn is, like, so desperate for attention, and because there's a baby here, he's like, "Not only do I have a brother, I now
Mm.
also have a human cousin that's actually getting everybody's attention." So he's been, like, so needy. So I've been taking him on special mother-son walks, just me and Finn alone. Nobody else is invited, no other humans, no other animals.
Oh.
And then Chester, yeah, like, that guy's just a big old goof. So he's just like, we've gotta just constantly be like, "Where's Chester? Where's the baby? Is everybody safe?" Etcetera.
Does Jagger even, like, know that there are big animals around him?
Who what does a baby know? I don't know. I
Yeah.
have no idea.
So true, so true.
I have no idea, but there have been a few, like, cute moments where, like, Finn like, Chester will, like, lick Jagger's, like, head or something, and Finn will, like, get all up in there and give him, like, a lot of sniffs, and it's, like, really cute.
Yeah, I bet.
It's really cute. So I think you have a lot of really cute moments coming up soon with your baby and your cats.
I hope so. I'm more worried about, like, the cats rebelling and just, like, peeing all over the house.
It's so crazy to just go from, like, an animal house to a baby house. Like, it's just, like, a new phase of life.
Yeah, apparently.
Okay, well, I'm getting a little bit overwhelmed. Let's talk about the Euros, Becky. So I went live right after the final with Ali Riley. We broke down the game in such detail. So if you missed that from Sunday, definitely go back and give it a listen for like a real play-by-play analysis. But I am so lucky we have Becky here. I need to get her take on a few things before we zoom out and talk about the tournament kind of as a whole. Obviously, England won in penalty kicks. There is so much to dissect here, but I want to start actually back in the first half with England going down a goal. This goal from Spain and Mariona Caldente was so well executed, Becky. What did you see on this goal and what did you feel when this happened?
I mean, I mentioned to you in the Euro check-in pod that I'd be watching the back lines a lot this game. And of course, I'm going to give a lot of credit to Onabatier for getting end line and like lifting the cross as opposed to like trying to cut it back on the ground. And of course, great header for Marion Caldente. But she should not have been that open in the box. And we knew England going into this game would have to defend the entire match so well just to stay in the game. And I will say for about like 119 minutes, they did do that. But that was a really tough defensive lapse to have that early in the game.
I know. And I was giving Spain so much credit for this, just the execution of this play. I felt like Aitana Bonmati had this really great central pass. And it felt like one of those plays and one of those, like, ways of Spain was just moving the ball so well that, like, it felt like no defender could keep up. But I totally agree. The marking in the box was not right, just like the marking in the box was not right when England ended up scoring their goal. This game was like a tale of like many stories. Like there was just like momentum kept shifting. Like there were some parts of the game where not much was happening. There were some parts of the game where too much was happening. There was like a lot of swings, but for most of this first half, it felt to me like Spain was in full control of the game. Interestingly, after halftime, I feel like did they take their foot off the gas? Like Spain just no longer felt in control. You started being like, this game's kind of wide open, and England could kind of score at any time.
I think I kind of disagree. And look at us once again, kind of disagreeing. I
Wow,
thought,
we've created a monster.
I know, right? What's wrong with us? I thought England started the game really well and had the momentum for the first bit. And there were some up, back, and throughs that caught the Spanish back
True.
line. And I was thinking, okay, like England really came to play. And I wonder if that goal and giving up that type of goal that early in the match kind of took the wind out of their sails because that's when I felt like Spain really started to take over and pin England back.
Yeah, I feel like that's fair. I think after their goal specifically, you're right. It was when it felt like Spain was in control, and that's where I was like, I would have wanted to see Spain put it away and like get another one or like keep possession. Like just don't let the game get so open. And I think that the openness in the second half where it was like kind of end to end, which again, I'm just like Spain, don't let it get like that. Don't let it get end to end. I'm not saying sit back and park the bus, but like stay in control, keep possession, like do what you guys do best. You've been having 80% possession in some of these games this tournament. Why are you letting England transition on you? Why are you letting England like connect all of these passes, which obviously then leads to England's goal? And I'm actually really excited to get your take on this on now Spain's backline and the lack of marking in the box. Talk us through what you saw here as England worked the ball up the field. The ball goes out wide to Chloe Kelly. What do you see going on in Spain's box?
I think whenever Chloe Kelly has gotten the ball on the flank this tournament, everyone has been like, there's a chance that something can happen
Yeah.
here, like a real opportunity, especially when she gets time to prep it onto her right foot. And I'm watching the back line and I'm like, okay, they've got numbers. There's 3 attacking English players, there's 3 defending Spaniards, like, just match up. Like, all you need to say to each other is match up. Like, we've got the numbers, we can solve this. And I give a lot of credit to Alessia Russo. She does hang out between that front post defender and that central defender
Yeah.
in the box. And so it was really good positioning from her, but still, she should never have been that open. The gaps in the box between the Spanish players should never have been that big. And so I'm just kind of like, defending wins championships. Why aren't we defending? These lapses. It's such a small detail, but it's something that backlines work on so much because in these moments, like, it makes a difference. We keep talking about goals are scored in the 18s. Like, that's where things are decided. And so you have to be so clinical on both sides of the ball in the 18. And I was just kind of surprised by both sides that these goals were allowed to happen.
I agree. I think, we give so much credit to the attack because it's like obviously so fun to just like cheer for people scoring goals. But I think you're right to point out that both goals at either end were like lapses in defensive marking and communication. I will say, felt very on brand for England to come back from being down a goal. It was almost like they needed Spain to score in order for them to score, which is just like crazy, but has been the story of their tournament this whole time. Again, I was a little bit disappointed in Spain to not keep control of the game and put it away when they kind of were calling the shots, after they scored that first goal. So we end up in extra time, we end up in penalty kicks. I was like trying to prepare for the live reaction show with Ali Riley and I couldn't because I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen. I can't like think about what questions to ask because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what story we're going to be telling. So I literally we kind of just had to like do it off the cuff.
I
What were
love that.
you feeling in penalty kicks? Did you think that one team might have an edge?
No, I went into that PK shootout having gone through the last PK shootouts of the year. I was being like, I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm expecting some wild misses, some great saves, some shenanigans. Like, I was like, I have no idea now. No clue who's going to win this one.
Literally no clue. I felt like I don't know, maybe because England had gone through a penalty kick shootout before that now, of course, in retrospect, I'm like, maybe they had an edge because of that, because they were like grinding it out all tournament. They had already been through this really emotional up and down game and penalty kick shootout. But I also was like, England just must be everybody looks like they're in pain, like so physically exhausted, so much overtime, emotionally on this incredible roller coaster, but that they must have just been so depleted. And that's what kind of brings me back to like maybe Spain was really depleted too. Is that why there were so many penalty misses? Like these penalty kicks, similarly to the whole rest of the tournament, they were just so unconvincing and from some of the best players in the world.
I know. I think it like goes back to penalty kicks being so mental. And of course, it's a skill that can be trained and can be improved upon. But I do think PKs, there's such a mental side to it. And I think because the tournament started with a bunch of misses, I think it got into players' heads and almost became like a yip. Like when a player all of a sudden has the inability to do a skill that they've done their entire careers. It's like one of those like sports phenomena things. And I have to give some credit to the goalkeepers. You have to make saves. But I was getting coffee with Jessie Fleming yesterday, and she's told me something really interesting about one of the German shootouts. And Berger had, a list of all the PK takers, and it was taped onto her water bottle. And
So
Jessie did
smart.
this like sleuthing and screenshot the bottle. And she said that all but one taker went the other direction that was listed. And so, like, yeah, keepers still need to make the saves, but I also wanna, like, add in that I think data analysis and player tendencies are also starting to play a role in these shootouts.
Which I think Becky like contributes to the mental side. Like when you know that your goalkeeper has all the information on the other team's shooters, you're also like this goalkeeper has all my information and if I go to the left 9 times out of 10, should I go to the right? I had like a mental lapse when it came to PKs for this period in my career where I started being like, it's 50-50 if it goes in because it just depends if what way she dives. And I like assumed that like if she dove the same way I shot, she'd save it, which was like not believing in myself and my shot enough and not believing that like I was in control when I stepped up there. But once you start thinking about the information the goalkeeper has, you're like, she's in my head
Yeah.
and she knows and she's going to save it. And that's maybe, again, like we're obviously speculating from the outside right now, but like maybe where some of these missing the goal comes into play. Like you're trying so hard to get it so far in the corner that you miss the goal, you hit it over. Credit to both goalkeepers, but especially to England's Hannah Hampton, who made 2 saves in the shootout. We also found out today that her grandfather had died just 2 days before the tournament. There was also a lot of that drama around Mary Earp stepping away from the team. This was Hannah Hampton's first major tournament with England. She pulled out such an incredible performance this tournament to really continue keeping England in games, putting them in great positions to win, and saving 2 PKs in the shootout in the final.
I mean, she really did have a great tournament. I mean, an excellent tournament, really. Good distributor of the ball. You could see that she was used a lot in that last game just to like keep possession. She had good range of play, some great saves. She was really clean and tidy on some saves, not giving up a lot of rebounds. So yeah, it's a very solid tournament.
For sure. And that brings us to Chloe Kelly stepping up to take, of course, what would be the game winning, tournament winning, deciding PK. And I was just like, this script has already been written. Like, I feel like it started getting written in 2022 when she won the Euros for England then. And then it's just been this, like, literally Hollywood picture over the past 3 years of Chloe Kelly. Like, I had zero doubts that she was going to score.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I had taken Zola to the airport earlier that day and I was texting him because he wanted all the updates. And he's like, all right, who's England's fifth taker? And I'm like,
Who do you think,
Zola.
bud?
Who do you think? And he's like, "Oh, yeah, Chloe Kelly, of course." Um, and I was just like, "I wonder how hard she's gonna hit this ball." And she really just hit the crap out of it.
She did. Did you see again that just like at the World Cup in 2023 when she like hit her PK harder than any Premier League goal that entire season? She like did that again. She like hit the same speed. I think it was 110 kilometers per hour or something.
I mean, it looked like it. Like, the goalkeeper, I think she guessed the right way, and it was just like, by the time she dove, the ball was a hit in the back of the net.
I I know. It was so epic, and, like, watching the celebrations was so cool. Even just, like, all the stuff on social media, like, hearing from the players, seeing, like, their captions, their little videos of them, like, walking around with the trophy. They kept saying, "So nice, we had to do it twice," which I was like, "It's just so English and, like, so cute and funny of you guys." England literally gave life and limb to win this, and they pulled it off, and I did feel like coming into the tournament that like the reaction of 2022 when England won, that like that was an example of a team who was like responsible for all of this growth and like sustained investment, and that if they were to win again, that would happen again. Whereas it almost feels like sometimes with like other nations winning, we saw with Spain in 2023, a lot of those players kind of come out saying that it didn't actually change that much. And so my hope was almost that like if England kind of continues to show that they are worth this investment, that as their federation, as their league grows, as people continue saying like, look, English women's football is this great product, we're going to keep feeding it and we're going to keep investing in it, they're going to, because they're going to keep winning, that I felt like the most change and good could almost come from England winning again. Do you agree with that, Becky?
So I do agree. I remember talking to Vera Bouquet, and she's a like longtime Spanish international, played with her at the Utah Royals. And I remember talking to her after we won the 2019 World Cup. And she was so glad that it was the US again, after we had won in 2015, we'd been runners up in 2011, because she was saying that like it just shows these federations that if you're willing to invest in these teams, like they will be successful and they will have continued success. And she was hoping that it would be a wake up call for all these federations that are still just under investing in their women's programs. And so I agree with you. I do think like this sustained excellence from England is just a great wake up call to the global game. And I'm just kind of like, how many more wake up calls do we need though?
I know. I know. I agree with that. I think that my hope again is that like other nations will see this and say, "Okay, English women's football has been invested in from more than one angle, both the national team and the club level, the domestic league." And if we do that, we'll win tournaments too. And I hope that like that cycle starts happening more and more, which I do think this tournament specifically, especially with a team like Italy, we did see signs of that hopefully starting to happen. Before we move on from England, there's one more storyline that's been getting a lot of attention. That's obviously Lucy Bronze announcing after the game that she played the whole tournament on a fractured tibia. I was so horrified to see the pain she was in during England's extra time. And then she was like hobbling after the game to receive her medal on stage. And obviously, like, I'm in awe of Lucy's toughness during this entire tournament. We didn't know she was playing on a broken tibia, but like regardless, she was the toughest player on the field every game. She was literally putting her body on the line every play. I think in so many ways she carried England to victory with her mentality and like grit. And I am not criticizing Lucy at all because, of course, she is a player. She's going to play literally unless somebody prevents her from playing. But I am wondering, and I feel like I want to ask the question as a player who had to retire early due to injury. I'm not a doctor. I don't understand the full diagnosis of Lucy's injury, but I want to know how you feel about Lucy playing injured. Do you think that England and their doctors had an obligation to protect her more?
I think that's really tough to answer without all the information because you say a fracture of the tibia, like what kind of fracture was it? Was it a stress fracture? Was it like something from blunt force? Because there's a lot of different types of fractures. And you and I both know a lot of players that have played with stress fractures all the time. Like you can play on it for a certain amount of time and extent until like it gets to a point where then, okay, this is very risky. You could actually get like a full fracture of the bone. We need to sit you out. And so I just without knowing, it's tough to say, but I will say that I think there are times in the game when you're playing at the World Cup or the Olympics or the Euros where you do push your body's limits. And I think then that becomes a much needed conversation and collaboration between your medical staff, your sport performance staff, and the player and how far you're willing to push these limits, how comfortable is the player pushing their limits and coming up with a solution together. And so I can't answer that because we just don't have enough information.
I actually think that's the most responsible thing to have said, Becky. So thank you for coming at this with like such grace and like a 360-degree view as you always do. Obviously, we love Lucy. I hope that she heals quickly and that we can see her back on the field when it's right for her body. I don't think England could have won without her. I just think the pure like mentality that she brings to that team is like so irreplaceable. And I hope she heals quickly. I had pegged Spain to win the Euros from day one. We kept doing the head and the heart thing, and I kept being like, my head says Spain. Like, I don't know what to tell you. My heart said England, but my head said Spain. I just couldn't imagine that anybody was going to be able to stop just the talent. Like the midfield alone, the team of the tournament had all three midfielders were Spain's midfield because they all are such incredible players. Now that they've come in second, which obviously is no small feat, I don't want to chalk this up as like a total failure from Spain. Spain are an incredible team. But I have started to really think about what I've been touting, what we've all kind of been touting as like Spain are unstoppable. Spain are the best in the world. Nobody can touch them. So I want this to actually be our Olipop gut check of the week, Becky, which I'm really excited about. I hope you have another just well thought out answer for us.
Yeah.
So this is our Olipop gut check of the week. Spain have competed in 4 major tournaments in the last 4 years: the 2022 Euros, the World Cup, the Olympics, and the 2025 Euros. They obviously won the 2023 World Cup, the most elite of these tournaments in the football world. But they did not medal at the Olympics. They lost in the quarterfinals in the 2022 Euros, and then they lost in the final in this Euros tournament. So my question is, are Spain actually as terrifying as everybody makes them out to be?
Yeah. Yeah, they're still terrifying. I think it's tough to maintain excellence and like to get to the top and to stay at the top are two very different things. And I think Spain and the world are just coming to realize that. Like you do need so much to go your way during these tournaments and you can be the best team and play the best soccer and still just not win. And so like we talk about, you know, we wanted to win a World Cup and then that next year win the Olympics because it's so difficult to do that. It's because, like, these tournaments are insanely hard, and everyone wants to knock you off the pedestal. If you're number 1, if you're the best in the world, like, you're getting everyone's A game, and, like, we know the pressure of what it's like to be number 1 in the world. We know what it's like, the pressures that we put on ourselves, that the world puts on us, the teams that come and play us, how much they wanna beat us, like, it is tough to stay there.
For sure. And in these world tournaments, you need like some measure of luck. You like really
Yes.
do. There is at any given moment, the ball can or cannot bounce your way. And that could be the difference between not getting out of the group and winning the whole tournament. But I don't know. I don't know. I am wondering now if we're all giving Spain, I don't know, a little too much love.
Wow. Okay. Look at you.
I can't decide if that's like really what I think.
I know it's tough. Were they the best team of the tournament if you take away the result of the final?
Have I stumped myself with this Olipop gut check of the week?
You might have.
I have truly stumped myself. Okay, that was our Olipop gut check of the week. Can you guys please help me out? Because I made up this question and I literally couldn't even answer it myself. So we need so much help over here. Well, zooming out even further, Becky, there are so many positives to take away from this tournament. Obviously, the host nation, Switzerland, we saw record attendance come out for these games. Teams like Italy really made statements about the future of their national teams, but also how their domestic leagues have a huge impact on the level that the national team's capable of playing at. It was such a joy to watch teams like Wales and Poland attend their first major international tournaments and to compete with such joy and ferocity. What stood out to you about the impact that this tournament had and what it promises for the future of women's soccer?
I think Italy is a really good example of this tournament's impact. Kind of how we just talked about the Lionesses used their last Euros win as a catalyst for their sport. I think that moment could be here for Italy. And this is part of Cristiana Girelli's speech when they were honored in a ceremony by the Italian president. She says, "Today we bring something more awareness, the awareness of our value and of the ability to dream big, the awareness of carrying on our backs much more than just a jersey, but the hope of young girls who watch us and think, one day I'll be there too." We were a minute from the final, just 1 minute. But it's not that minute that defines us, she said. What defines us is the journey, the shared effort, the sincere tears, and the strong desire to demonstrate that we deserve respect, visibility, and a future. And I just absolutely love that she took that opportunity to use that platform to call for better because they deserve better. I mean, holy cow, you see what they've done. They just professionalized their league 3 years ago and now they're, 1 minute away from a Euro final. Like, yeah, they deserve investment. Like, who knows what they could do in a few years?
I know. I That's such a good point. I think Italy's story this tournament is such a great example of just the impact that a tournament like this can have on just the whole landscape of women's football. Kind of coming into like the American perspective a little bit, we saw a lot of familiar faces from the NWSL have standout performances. Esther, who plays for Gotham, won the Golden Boot for Spain. Angel City's newest signing, Svendes Jonsdottir, played for Iceland. Gotham's and Katrine Berger played for Germany, had a standout tournament for them. I was also reading about the general American experience of this tournament for us who were watching from the States in Meg Linehan's latest article for The Athletic. And she reported that Fox's goal for the viewership was to increase it by 50%. And they actually increased it by 90% through the group stage, which I think again, it's like because Fox gave it like a real desk with like real analysts and they put it on their real Fox channel instead of having it all be streamed. Of course, people are going to watch it when you give it the platform and the attention that it deserves and you make the coverage of it stronger and better. It's a better product for people to watch. So, of course, the viewership grew.
Yeah, of course. Like the product is there. We just needed people to believe it and to like make it visible. And so I'm not at all surprised. And I love that the American audience grew so much because I think there's kind of a narrative around soccer and women's soccer that like, yeah, there's interest in the US team, but kind of only around like major tournaments. And it's like, we had nothing to do with this tournament. And look what happened.
I think you're absolutely right to point out that that narrative is changing and that's so exciting because there's so much soccer coming and happening and that we're going to be able to watch and bear witness to and be a part of. So the future is very bright. Huge congratulations to England. The Euros was literally so much fun. So thank you everybody who followed along with our coverage. Thank you to all of our co-hosts who came on. I'm really really proud of the work that TWG did as a whole around the Euros. So I'm psyched for what's next. We do need to take a quick break, but we've got all things WAFCON and Copa America when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, so in addition to the Euros, two other major tournaments have been taking place this month. There's the Africa Cup of Nations and the Copa América Femenina. The AFCON held its final on Saturday, and just like with England at the Euros, it was another crazy comeback story. The final had host nation Morocco, who have never won the tournament, taking on nine-time WAFCON champions Nigeria. Nigeria's team had dubbed this run Mission X because they were trying to win their 10th WAFCON title. Though in the first half of the match, it looked like that title would slip away. In front of a home crowd, Morocco put on a really commanding first half performance, taking a 2-0 lead over Nigeria after capitalizing on some defensive errors. And these goals by Morocco were the first time Nigeria had conceded from open play this entire tournament, which is fascinating. Becky, going into halftime with a 2-0 lead at a major final on home soil, would you think that the momentum would be all Morocco?
No, never. No, a two-goal lead going into halftime is notoriously the hardest lead to have in soccer, and all it takes is just one thing to go wrong, and if there's a goal, things start getting really shaky. If there's a tying goal, like, the momentum just completely shifts, and so, I mean, I remember going into the 2015 World Cup final being up by 3 goals and still feeling very unsettled.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wish that you had been in Morocco's locker room then to warn them at halftime because after the break, just like you said, momentum really swung in Nigeria's favor. They were awarded a PK off of a controversial VAR call. And from then on, Nigeria were right back in it. They equalized in the 71st minute and then completely deflated the home crowd and Morocco's dreams of hoisting their first trophy when Nigeria scored again in the 88th minute. Super heartbreaking for Morocco, who have increased investment in both their men's and women's programs, but the Nigerian Super Falcons continue their dominance. They've now won 10 of the 13 WAFCON titles, and they're taking home $1 million in prize money, which has been doubled since the last edition of this tournament.
That's remarkable. 10 out of 13, like, congrats to Nigeria. True heartbreak for Morocco in front of their home crowd, but I'm so glad that they're increasing the prize money. I think that's something that all women's players have been fighting for. Let's increase the prize money. So I love that strides are being made, and they just need to keep happening.
For sure. I think that one thing you and I, me and Lynn, all of us here at TWG have been talking about over the past month is our responsibility as media to cover these tournaments and to push for, improvements in all of these areas. And while of course there is so much to improve and to keep growing, it's been really cool to see how this tournament, the WAFCON, has grown. I read a quote from Ivorian legend Clementine Torre on how far the WAFCON has come since she won in 2008. She said, many things have changed. Back then, for instance, we did not have a platform where coaches would listen to each other. Now we have women as part of the preparations of the WAFCON, more female media, more female security officers in the organization. There's more female presence. The WAFCON is now on TV. There's technology involved at the game. Everything we see now is documented, and we can talk about this information immediately when we receive it, like live stats during the game. This is progress. And I just loved hearing from somebody who's so embedded in what's going on at a tournament like this, speaking to the progress because it makes it feel like there are steps being taken in the right direction.
Yeah, and I love how she speaks to the presence of more women throughout the tournament at all the levels. And I think we saw that at the final this past Saturday. It was an all women officiating team calling the game, which is like, I just think that's so ballers. And I think I read an article where they did identify that one of the areas that does need to grow is the presence of women head coaches. At this iteration of the WAFCON, there were only 2. So the South African coach and the Zambian coach. And as a comparison, the Euros apparently had 44% women head coaches.
Yeah, I again another area to grow upon. I think that that's, come to light in a lot of ways over recent years how having women in coaching positions and in positions of power in general really can help make this environment better for the players. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about the Copa America Femenina. The group stages went out with a bang this weekend. We're heading into the final four, the semifinals. Playing in the semifinals, we've got Uruguay, who struggled a little early on, but seem to have found their footing. There's also Argentina, who just cruised through the group stage, but now they're going to play Colombia. Colombia had a bit of a slow start in the group stage, but once they got going, they really got going. Their last game saw them beat Bolivia 8-0. I feel like Colombia, this is always a team we talk about as one to watch on the world stage, and they're only getting better despite pretty lackluster investment from their federation. Becky, we're familiar with them because they've played the US women's national team a lot recently. You saw them play up close at the She Believes this past winter. They've got players like Linda Caicedo, Myra Ramirez, and just really explosive passion for the game. Like the games when you watch them play against the US are always like so exciting. Can you talk to us a little bit about what makes Colombia special and really a team to watch at this Copa America tournament?
Yeah, they're really exciting because it's such a cool combination of like skill, flair, and grit. They defend well, they get stuck in, they can possess well, they're really good in tight spaces. They know how to work with one another and they know how to play to their strengths. I mean, they've got some like world class talent in that attacking line, like you said, with Linda Caicedo and Mira Ramirez in particular. And so I think it's just like a matter of time before they just kind of like it all just clicks together and they become like a real force.
Yeah, I agree. And this tournament is like a big test for them. They actually had to play their last group stage game against another big team, you one that you and I know very well, and that's Brazil. Brazil have won this tournament 8 times. They're captained by the global goat, Marta. They have some of the best players in the NWSL. Brazil were also really neatly navigating this tournament in the group stage. They handedly shut down Paraguay, who had this amazing young player, Claudia Martinez, who's just 17 years old, but she's one of the tournament's top goal scorers. But Brazil were showing everybody why they're always the favorites. But this past weekend, they had like what felt like their first real test against Colombia. Already a rivalry. The last Copa America final was between Brazil and Colombia. Brazil only won that by a single goal. That was from Dubinha. So we knew that this final group stage kind of rematch and also kind of maybe a preview could get crazy, and it did. In the 21st minute, Brazil's goalkeeper Lorena, who plays for Kansas City, leapt into the air to stop Linda Caicedo, who was like kind of, running freely with the ball, but it bounced off Lorena's arm, but she was way outside the box. And so the ref first gave her a yellow, but then there was some discussion. The ref came back with a red card. It definitely hit her arm, but was just one of who knows about handballs anymore. The subjectivity has all of us being like, I don't know, whatever they decide. Brazil like kind of was freaking out. The whole bench was like following the ref along the sideline. Obviously, losing your goalkeeper 21 minutes into a big game is like a nightmare because now you're subbing the goalkeeper and you're playing down a player. So a tough start to this one for Brazil.
Uh, yeah, that's like putting it very mildly. It is not it's not a fun way to start a super important a game against a really good opponent.
I know. It was like not ideal. This game stayed contentious. Brazil obviously subbed their goalkeeper. There was a lot of contact. There were some crazy shots, but it ended in a draw. Both of these teams are now in the semifinals. As of this recording, we don't know if Colombia will beat Argentina, but right now there's a real chance that the final here could be a rematch between Brazil and Colombia, the two teams who, even if they don't go all the way, have really continued to impress. My question is, if these teams get to play again, who would you back to win? Is Brazil going to win their 9th Copa America title, or are Colombia finally going to plant their flag on the world stage?
I think it's really tough to go against Brazil, but like I said, it really does feel like Colombia is like on the cusp of something. You've got just really talented players that are playing in the top leagues on the top teams, just like the Brazilians. But I just got to imagine that the Brazilians are really hungry for another title. They've been so close on the biggest stage, like almost winning an Olympic gold last year. And I think winning is a real habit. And so you never want to break the habit. So it's tough to go against Brazil.
I know. I'm excited for the semifinals. Brazil still have to get through Uruguay. That's the smallest country in this tournament. They actually were the team that protested for better conditions ahead of the tournament and got them and won. Colombia are playing Argentina, who have been kind of a dark horse. They have an exciting mix of young players and veterans. We will post a graphic on our social media for how and when to watch the rest of this tournament, but I can tell you the games are streaming on Fox Sports for free. So let's watch them. We do need to take one more quick break, but we've got a great email and some good vibes for you in just a minute. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, before we get to the inbox, I want to remind everybody that the NWSL is back this weekend. I'm so excited for the second half of the season, the push to playoffs. A lot of teams had some friendlies during this break, and one I wanted to note was this past weekend when Angel City took on the Carolina Ascent of the USL Super League. Angel City won 4-2, but the main storyline is that Alyssa Thompson scored all 4 goals for Angel City. Clearly, she is in top form. She's ready for the return of the NWSL. Becky, we all know that 3 goals is called a hat trick. I did not know that 4 goals had a nickname. Did you?
No, I don't, but please enlighten me.
It's called a haul. So Alyssa
Ooh,
Thompson scored a haul of goals. I, like, literally have never heard that before. I'm obsessed.
that's sick.
Um, I know. Nothing gets me more excited for the return of NWSL than having to learn a whole new term for how many goals somebody scored. Plus, like I mentioned before, we've got some of the Euro stars like Svennis Jonsdottir of Iceland and Sofia Cantore of Italy coming to play in the NWSL. There's also returning heroes like Anne-Catherine Berger and Jess Carter, Esther Gonzalez, and Trinity Rodman has even been spotted training with the Spirit. Becky, are there any NWSL matchups that you're particularly excited for this weekend?
Yeah, really excited for my Thornies to be playing the Spirit this week at the
It's a big
Spirit.
one.
It's 4 against 5 in the table. The possibility of jumping up as high as second for the Spirit. The Thornies could be tied for second with Orlando. If they win, like, it's just a big
Wow.
game. Yeah, it's tight at the top of the table right now.
That feels like a big game. I'm really excited about it. I do want to talk about some news that came out here in the US last week. The US Olympic and Paralympic Committee changed their eligibility rules to bar trans women from competing for the USA. According to the New York Times, they tried to do this quietly, updating their quote unquote athlete safety policy with a quick and vague paragraph stating their policies will comply with Trump's executive order that's trying to ban trans women from playing women's sports at the elementary, secondary, and post secondary, which is college level. The organization explained via email to the Team USA community that, quote, as a federally chartered organization, we have an obligation to comply with federal expectations. Becky, obviously, I know you and I are both disheartened and saddened by this news, especially on behalf of the trans community. So I wanted to use this opportunity to speak about it.
It is such a blow to the transgender community and to, like, the spirit of sports, and this coming after the NCAA's decision to reverse their policy on transgender athlete participation. And the cruelty of Trump's executive order, like crudely named keeping men out of women's sports, denies trans youth the opportunity to play sports on the teams they identify with. And we know how important it is for young people to have access to sports and to teams and to a place where they feel like they belong. And to deny that is just like the height of cruelty. And Athlete Ally had an amazing response to the decision and states it perfectly and very plainly with the quote, furthermore, this policy change is another example of an institution giving up their authority and expertise to politicians who have no credibility dictating athlete safety. This rule change is not in response to new research or new guidelines from medical experts in sports. Instead, it is the result of mounting political pressure and government hostility toward one of the smallest minorities in society, let alone sports. So, like, our hearts go out to the trans community and know that we will continue to use our platform to advocate for you, to support organizations that will fight against transphobia, and just know that you have a place in sports, in society, everywhere.
Yeah, thank you, Becky. That was perfectly said. I so appreciated Athlete Ally's response as well to just break down and explain why this decision doesn't make sense. It's not coming from medical experts. It's not coming from any studied sources. It's just a response to political pressure, which feels so small and like
Gross.
gross. And I feel so horrible for the trans community, and I do want sports to be a place where everybody feels they can be themselves and can participate. Sports, especially for kids, is such a critical place for like development and learning and teamwork and joy. And so this is obviously like really horrible. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. I always turn to your guidance when things like this happen because I feel like you're one of the kind of leaders in speaking about this. So I really appreciate that we have you here to speak about it for us. It's time to head over to the inbox. We got an email from Lauren that reads, "Hi Sam, Becky, and Lynn. I'm a huge fan of the pod. I have a long commute, and listening to you guys always makes it feel shorter and less painful. Like everyone else, I completely caught Euros fever this past month. And so my question is, after seeing teams like Spain, Germany, and England play, and now looking ahead to the World Cup in 2027, what does the US women's national team have to work on to face these teams on the world stage? Obviously, our depth and talent is insane, but what did you see in the Euros that made you think, oh, the US has to work on this to face these teams? Thanks, Lauren." Love this question, Lauren. Shout out.
Do you got anything on the top of the head, Sammy?
I mean, the thing that comes to mind first is like if the US has got their PKs on lock, I think we got
Easy.
it, baby. I think we got
Oh,
it. What do you
wild.
think?
I have been so impressed by the defending in this tournament by these European teams. And so I think what can set the Americans apart is just figuring out how to break down different types of defenses. And if that is, 1v1 brilliance, if that is combination play, like third man runs, up backs and through, like I just think like the area that can be improved upon the most in the game is probably now that attacking side. And I think the US can do that.
I do too. I think when I think about the versatility that we have in the attack, even just adding set pieces into that list of ways to score goals, I feel that we have so many different tools in our attack right now that it's really going to be about who are we playing and how do they defend, and then who in our roster is best suited to break that down. And I have so much hope and optimism that the US women's national team is going to have all of those tools, especially 2 years from now. Lauren, what a great question. I'd love to know what everybody else thinks. So feel free to send me an email and let me know anytime. Women's game MIB@menandblazers.com. Becky, sadly, we're winding down the show. This is the end. So I'd love to leave our listeners with a good vibe before we go.
I have been such a little social butterfly. I had dinner with Sam Coffey and Katie Donnelly, who is like a longtime athletic trainer of the national team in the NWSL. And then Friday night had dinner with my agent. And then I got coffee on Saturday and Sunday with like different Thorns players. And
Reba,
yeah,
who are
I
you?
I don't know. And that's maybe why I'm so tired because my social meter is a little depleted. But it was such a good vibe. And I'm really glad that I got to connect with all those people.
Ribs, I am like considering booking a flight to Portland, knowing that now you'll hang out with me.
Let's hang.
My good vibe is Vermont Green. Reba, Vermont Green. I know I talk about this all the time. The women's team I coached earlier this summer has a men's team, and they play in the USL 2, and they are in the national championship game this upcoming weekend, and we're hosting it here in Vermont.
Okay.
They just keep winning. They just keep winning. I don't even like know what to say. I've been to like a bunch of their playoff games, and like they're all going to the end. Like the last one went all the way to penalty kicks. It's been so fun, but if you like need to see coverage of it, Men in Blazers has actually been posting on their social media about it's like fourth tier because it's USL 2, and there's been thousands of people at the game. The game from this past weekend, the tickets for it sold out in 30 seconds. Like people are going crazy for the tickets, Becky.
That's like
And
Taylor
then
Swift numbers.
it's Taylor Swift numbers. And then we'll like score the goal and pan to the stands and everybody's going wild. Children are running onto the field while the game is still going on. Like it has been so fun to witness this like explosion of passion for soccer in Vermont, in part thanks to Vermont Green becoming a club a few years ago and like just really bringing together this community of people who are so passionate about the sport.
Credit to you too for like using your platform
Hop it on
to
board.
yes. Go Vermont Green. What's the phrase?
Up the green.
Up the green.
I'm so excited for them. They are my good vibe. I cannot wait for the game this weekend, and I just want to wish them luck. I'm like so excited. They have some incredible players, Becky. Like the games are so fun to watch.
I mean, up the green.
I think you can watch the games on the USL 2 League website. So good luck. Up the green. Super excited. And that's it for this week's episode of Good Vibes, everybody. Later this week, we have another rivalry special dropping with Sam Hyatt, thanks to our friends at Ally. Then we're resuming our NWSL coverage as the league picks back up this weekend. So follow along with us across all social media at Women's Game MIB. Don't forget to grab your tickets to our live show next week in New York City. I promise there are some great guests coming. I cannot wait to tell you all about it. Please make sure you're subscribed to this podcast feed and to our YouTube channel. As always, if you're just listening to our voices, don't forget that you can watch this on YouTube and you can see us, move our hands around and see our cute little faces. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us. Goodbye.
I'm Becky Sauerbrunn.
And I'm Sam Ewis. Love ya.
Love ya.